Okay, let me close the notes and take you to the lab. You can find the lab document and download it on Canvas. Our course week 2. You guys are a week ahead of the other class. Okay, so today we are gonna use a couple of the tool sets. One, you're gonna do some recon using KIS. This is specifically designed for Kali Linux. This is a way that we can data mine, so it's going to scrape the webs. It's going to find the information for you so we can use this in an automated way. But when you do pen testing or when you are using virtual machine like this, you want to also use a Docker. And it talks about Docker in the later part. So KIS, just to learn a little bit more, don't skip this section because it actually tells you about the tool. It is querying using available API. We talked about Census and other engine like Hunter.io, Shodan. Instead of you manually going to each one, you can use, a tool, a suite or a toolkit to be able to do that. But what it does is it's gonna store it in a database structure. So that's why sometimes installing it there's requirements in installing these things. You can also use this with Burp Suite, which is a preferred tool for many security professionals. And so it gives you some analysis already for the report, but you can also use it for your own reporting analysis. And I give you the link for how to install. Docker is a platform where you can think of it like a space in your system where you can have a container. And we want to do that. So Docker is used as a container. So we can control the environment that we use to test. The reason why I do it in a virtual machine is one, your virtual machine already have the tools that we need to use. Typically, Docker can be used to set up different spaces or different container for different testing purposes. So I recommend learning how to use Docker. So as you go through these labs, don't forget to document the things that you have learned and use, what you have exposed to. If you're comfortable with that, put it on your resume. It is helpful. It's about product knowledge, right? And skill sets in this industry. So you're going to download your virtual machine. You can simply go to search for, let's say I go to Google, right? I would search for Kali download, and it's going to take me to get Kali. Go find your virtual machine page. So click recommended. And we're going to use the one for VirtualBox. So download this. You saw this from the last lab. It's going to take a few minutes to come down. And remember that it is a zip or a compressed file. Now, if you do this at home, you need two things. You need a VirtualBox app, the player with the tool sets installed. So you have to go to Oracle website to download that. Second, you need a 7-zip to extract, right? I talked about that last time. So once you download the compressed file, you are going to right click it. You're going to go to show more options. You're going to use 7-zip to extract. Do not use the Windows tool because it won't extract it properly. So we need to use the 7-zip to do that for your Windows system. Now, if you're using Mac OS, you have to use the console because 7-zip is not created for that. So you can use command line and you can find tutorial or support for that as well, documented online. Or you can, I read that you can use unzip 0 to extract. But anyway, so once you click extract file, it's going to give you a folder without the zip icon. And this is where your virtual machine is going to be used. Okay. So here, first we are going to open up the app. So to call up the app, you simply put in VirtualBox to search on your Windows search bar and open up your app. Okay. So once your app is open, if you already have it on your playlist, you just need to change your setting before you click start. But since let's say that I don't have it on my playlist like this, I'm going to click add. I'm going to navigate to my downloads folder and find my extracted folder. Open it up, open up the subfolder, and then find my blue file, which is the VBox file. And I want to use the recent one. So if you have the old one, don't click the old one down here. Click the more recent one that you'd have downloaded and extract. If you get stuck here, let me know. I'll help you. Click open. Now, before you start it, make sure that you give it more RAM only because it's going to save you some time. Because if you give it more RAM and processor, some of your query is going to come back sooner than wait a little longer. So we are going to click settings. And then in the setting, you see the base memory, clear it out and change it to 4,000. Or you can go higher like 8,000, right? You have 32 gig of RAM in these Alienware systems. At home, if you have 16, 4 is good. Now, click on the processor tab, right? Again, before I play my machine, I click settings, go to the base memory, clear out the 2048. I'm going to put in 4,000, roughly 4 gig. And then the processor tab, click it, and then change that to quad core, which is 4. So we need to up the processor value, and we need to up your RAM, okay, which is the base memory, and the processor needs to be quad core. So before we start the machine, we need to do this. Otherwise, you're going to have to shut it down and change it or wait. So once you up your RAM and change your processor, you're good to go. Then you click start. And then the same login that we use, which is KALI for the username and KALI for the password. Now, the tools that we're going to be using require group level privilege. So you cannot use Kali credential only. I know it's not safe to run everything as root, but we are simply using it to install the Docker, run some tools, KIS with the Docker. So you will need, because if you're using Kali credential only, at some point you are going to have to switch over. I do this earlier because when I worked through the lab before, I found that, if you switch over, it doesn't always have the same file and the same thing on that profile, right? That account. Okay, so my machine had started. And again, make sure that we up the RAM and the processor before you click start. And then I'm going to log in. I'm going to minimize this to the corner so we can see the instruction and that both. So we're mainly going to use the terminal in Kali, but again, Kali has a lot of really good tool options for other things like recon on its own. So you can click the dragon to look at the application, but open up your terminal. I'm going to zoom in slightly so we can see better on the projection. Okay. So the first thing, before you install any software, you need to make sure that your system is updated, even though it's a recent version, right? So sudo, and again, you can copy paste, apt update. Now, apt-get is really for Ubuntu. Yes, you can use apt-get in Debian, but you can also simply use sudo apt update. And then confirm the password, KALI. And it's going to take a little bit to push all the latest package for the update. We simply updating the software in Kali right now. So if you're using like version 2024 or version 2023, I recommend that you upgrade and then update. It's different, right? Upgrade is when you move up the OS version, where update is just the software tool within. All right, then what you're going to do is you are going to install the Docker, which is, like we said, it's a container. We're going to set up a space in RVN to run the security tool. You want to do this by practice because especially if you're using your own laptop or your system, you don't want it to be impacting your regular systems, files, and information. So we want to have a control environment. Okay. So as the updates are done here, right, it pulled down the packages. You can copy and paste the next command. So you can do sudo apt install. And we want to put the parameter yes, so we don't have to type yes later, that we want to install Docker, right? Docker.io. So on step 6, each line is a command. Run it one by one, okay? Each line is a command for step 6. Do not copy and paste 4 or 5 lines and then dump it in the terminal. It's going to try to do run by one, but sometimes it doesn't understand you and you're going to get an error. So run each command. And then there are some steps that's going to have an overflow. So you're going to run the entire command in multiple lines. Okay, so I installed Docker. I'm going to enable Docker and you are going to use a system control command and you're going to activate that now. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste this. So highlight it, copy, and then go to your terminal and you're going to paste selection. Right click and paste selection. And what it's going to do is going to activate your container at this point. So now you know how to install Docker in Linux and you know how to activate your Docker, right? Not a lot of people can do this, but you know, good. You can do that now. So we want to activate that. And then what we're going to do is inside our container, think of it like a storage space on your system. You are going to install KIS, which is your suite, your tool. So if I'm pen testing, I want to make a Docker and I wanted to put the intelligence tool in there, right? So I'm going to do a Docker pull. So once you have your Docker, you are going to, you can use Docker pull. Through the Docker, we are going to put in the Git repository for the tool that we're using. So we want to copy and paste this so it's easy. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot sudo su. I apologize. I skipped the step earlier. This one. I think it pulls everything, right? I just want to make sure. So I'm going to redo some of the step, making sure I have the folder. So make sure that you don't skip step 4 because you're going to run into the Docker pull permission denied. Okay, then I'm going to activate my Docker. Okay, then I would make sure that I am doing the pull for KIS, which is our software tool. And it's going to take a few minutes to come down for my Docker. Then we're going to make a folder in step 8. So after we do the pull, we're going to also pull PostGresSQL. So SQL can be in variation. Typically you would use MySQL or, Postgres is a variation in that. So this Docker uses Postgres, so you have to pull the latest version of SQL from Postgres for your Docker. Okay, so once the download complete, it just need to do the install, right? So once I have my KIS, as you can see, it's going to be many tools, right? You see that there? It's going to come down. Of course, it's going to be slower than your regular VM or even your regular system because now it is a specific location inside. It's a dedicated RAM location for your system. So once I have the intelligence suite, I'm going to do the SQL, which is for your database. That's where it's going to store your findings, right? These tools are going to go and search for things and it's going to put it there. And so we want to make a directory for it. Okay, so while we wait, we can also look. So once you have the directory, we are going to pull the YAML file to be able to complete that, right? So if you read the documentation for KIS, it actually tells you a little bit about the process on what you need to be able to build out um you know the automated tool for your system. So any question? Are you okay following along? Yeah, mine is still going. It's extracting and it's completing the pull. So you will have to wait a few minutes for it to go. Mhm. Yeah, it could be also that it will block the face. So if your target's not being spotted, it won't be able to push it. Enter exit solution. Yeah, so did you find the result? See if you can match it. To do the next step, to see if you find. If it finds something, it might have something in there, but if it doesn't complete, you might not have anything. So sometimes you have to wait longer. I think you did why did we do this second? You pulled it, right? No, it's yeah. So redo this one and then regenerate. Yeah, just start comparing. Okay. Any other questions? Yes. Hill. No space after the slash. Here. Not create. Oh, it already there. Already there. So you can see that. Yeah. You made it somehow with the prior step. Okay, so I sorry. I'm a little bit behind after just my was slower. Okay, so I did the pull, right? I did the Docker pull right here. And then I'm gonna do the Postgres pull. So copy this. And that's gonna come down. So after that, we're gonna make a directory. So if your directory already exists, it won't let you make the same name folder. So basically you're making a directory, a subdirectory, called KIS. So that means a folder is gonna be created in that step, right? And that is used to, for the next few steps, you are gonna download a YML file, um, which is what you see in the next step here, right? So I'm going to make a KIS directory, right? If you made it already, you might get an error, but you would see that successful there. Then in the next step here, step 8, you're going to do this one command line, and then on the next page, you're going to run the command on both lines, right? This is one complete command. wget, and this is all its URL extension. So URL extension, we are going to download the YML file, and we're going to put it into the folder that we made, and we're going to call it Docker Compose YML. So run this as a complete command for step 8. There's 2 commands. Make directory called KIS, and wget, which is a way to download the specific file that we need for the tool, okay? So we're going to copy that, and we're going to paste that in here after we have the KIS directory. And it's going to tell you that it's going to put it in that folder, right? If you read the outcome. I don't want you to just run a command and not knowing if there's an error or not. Read what you see, and it's going to tell you it places it there. Then after that, what we're going to do is we are going to create a secret file, and we're going to use pwgen, and it's going to create this secret file called postgres.txt. So we're going to install the tool. And once we install, we're going to use it to generate the secret key for our file. So go there and then paste. And so we have this text file that has the key. Then what we're going to do is we are going to update the path. This is a way that we can link your file, right, for finding, so to our suite, our tool that we're going to use. So you're going to, for step 10, make sure we run both lines as one complete command, right? So all the way from sed to YML, copy that and paste it. Okay, if you run it separately, you're going to run into a problem later, so make sure it's one complete command. In step 9, 2 separate commands. In step 10, when you see an overflowing line in our lab, that just means that it's one complete thing. Okay, one complete command. Then in step 11, once you have linked the file, right, to your directory, you are going to start it with using the tool. You're going to start using the tool so that way it places the finding in the directory as needed. So we're going to run the complete command from the one line to the next. So we're going to copy here, and we're going to paste the entire line, right? That's just, and then it asks you, do you want yes or no? Type Y for yes, and that's step 11. So this is gonna run, and then we're gonna initialize the database. So basically, the process is you have to set up the database, you gotta link the file to the directory, then you're gonna have to you're gonna run the tool inside that directory, and then you are going to initiate the database so it stores your result into the database for your tool, right? So we are gonna run this next command where it's going to execute the KIS. Oh, let me see. Oh, maybe I need to run this again. I skipped a step, so hold on a second. There it is. Okay, so I ran the Kali Intel suite. Now I'm going to initiate the database. So sometimes you have to backtrack if you're running into error. You ask yourself, which step did I do last? What am I trying to achieve in the last step? right? So now I activated the database, and then I'm going to wait, right? So take a screenshot for this to show me that you got there. So take a screenshot there. And then I'm going to get some example of the tool command that I'm using. Okay. All right. So when you do a -H like this, so from here on out, whatever that you're trying to run the tool, you're always going to have a Docker because your software needs to know where that is, right? And then you're going to do an exec, which is executable, and then the application that you're running, which is KIS. And when you're using a -H, it's just going to give you command option for that tool. So at this point, when I run a -H, it basically gives me an overall command option, right? Like, for example, I can do collect, okay? And KIS collect just tells me that it contains function to collect data. And then you can do others. You can do scan. So it would import the scan result. There's workspace, network, host service. So these are some of the common options that you can include with your command. Okay. So once you have the -H, you can see. So if you don't know how to start, you can use the -H, which lists the option that you can use with that command. Then the next step that we're going to do is we are going to make a workspace in our container. This allows you to apply the results, right, for that tool. So we have a container, and inside it, we're going to section that we create a workspace. We're going to name it new workspace. You can name it anything you want. So, and then we're going to put the result that we find in that workspace. So next, we are going to make a workspace. Okay. If it's not complaining, then we're successful. So after that, we are going to go ahead and add the domain. So whatever your target is, IP address or domain, right? Because we're using domain criteria here, you got to put in the domain name. Okay? So we're going to run scanme.org, and I hope we don't floor them too bad. Now, don't do it for any website because this is an active tool. So if you don't have permission, they can go after you, okay? But ScanMe allows you to, run tools like Nmap against it. Okay, so we add the domain name to our workspace. Then for 17, you need to run the complete command from Docker to the beginning. But I'm going to explain to you, okay? The more hyphen items that you put on this list, the longer it's going to take. So you ask yourself, do I need this, right? Do I need this information? So go through the list. It's pretty straightforward, okay? Like DNS information, you got some spoof information, has that website been breached before? There's some Hunter information. You learn Hunter today, that's email, right? So when you activate Hunter, you just do a --Hunter in KIS. It's going to run that email harvesting for you. Now, if the company is very large, that alone takes up time, okay? Then there's others, right? It's going to search VirusTotal for you, who is all the tools that we talked about today, so you can incorporate it. Now, if you want it faster, just include the primary tools for your goal, okay? So the whole point in this is to show you how you can incorporate many tools into one command under that suite, but you don't have to use everything. Understand? Okay? Because my students are like, I don't know what it's doing. Why is it not responding? Well, some tools are good and effective because the website has that information. Some tools are not. So add or minus, right? Just make that logical decision. Okay, so when we run this together for that domain, so if you have a different target, you have to repeat step 16, right, with a different domain name. And then you would use, again, add or subtract the tools that you need. Okay, if you don't know all the tools, go to the documentation and see, right? And I put down that it's 20 minutes plus. It really depends on a few things. Your resources, your performance on your system, network bandwidth, how good is the responsive rate on their server. So if your target is responding slow, then you're going to get slow result no matter what, right? If they're hosting their server on like a quad core with 4 gig of RAM, you bet you it's going to be really slow responding, okay? And then if they have a lot of security filtering, there's a lot of different factors. So now, right, I told you to wait right here. And so what it does is it's going to bring you to the CLI of KIS. Okay. And it shows you the space in KIS. So now you're in the command line of the tool. And good night. So after a while, I'm not requiring you to screenshot. I wanted to show you you can do this, right? Because some of you will be doing this for threat hunting or for recon, for pen testing. And, so you just have to know the process in doing it. So again, right, the suite has these tools. We're going to run it, and it's going to bring you up the command line like this, right? You can also search online on their documentation on how to use their command. So when you see like this, so if it's not, so now we can just do an exit. And what it does when you do an exit is that it's going to take you out. Now, I might not have any data yet, right? Because that's very soon. So if you wait, sometimes you need to wait a little longer, then I'll be able, or I can drill down the collection. So when you terminate it, it's going to wrap up that collection. So it might be in the middle of getting an email or whatever, right? So you might not have all the data if you exit out too early. Okay, so I just want you to know that. So wait a while, depending on the target. Now, to access it, you're going to bash. So in Docker, you can use bash command. And it's going to take you to a virtual environment with a shell, right? If you're familiar with Python virtual environment, you're going to see something like this. So you can activate a virtual environment using this command. So you are going to bash. Bye. Good night. And once you see the shell, we are going to look for the report. This is one complete line command. Good night. So we are going to access the report, and the report is going to come from our workspace that we created, right? And it basically, the filter that you create here is what it's going to give you. So you wanted to know if there's a first, second level domain, if there's company's name, if there is any additional information, and it's going to display that because the data that it pulled, it is a CSV file, right? In the database, and so it's going to search for that, and it's going to give you the result. So if you complete the last step successfully, then you are going to get something here, right? So I put a note for that. So in the shell, we're going to paste the selection, and we're going to press enter. Right? So it tells me that, oh, well, it could not determine the delimiter. It's not able to give me any kind of things that I'm asking for. So basically, when it runs this function, this module in the package for Python, if you took Python, you know, right? It's not successful because it doesn't return any data, right? So it's generating an error, and this is it catches this error, so that's what you see here, right? So it's okay because we ran it was too soon. I terminated, so I'm not getting anything. Okay? Now, in some cases, you might not get anything even if you wait. The website or the domain that you're using might not have the information that you need. So even when you run the tool, it might not give you any kind of output. Okay? So think about your target and think about what you're doing there. So take a screenshot and then we're going to get out of it. So my whole goal in this is to show you how to set up the tool, half of the battle. Okay? Docker is a you know what pain, and so it takes a little bit to get going. Set up the workspace, run the tool in the workspace. It has all the harvester, all the automated things for you to use. So having the access to that is going to help you. So once I'm done, I'm going to exit out of shell, and it's going to take me to my pop-up for my terminal. And then we're going to use recon-ng. So recon-ng is included with Kali Linux, but it gives you the background here. The framework is written in Python. A lot of these tools are written in Python. So sometimes you see the error. It tells you the module, the location, the package's location. So having a little bit of knowledge in that is going to help. It is really geared for web-based reconnaissance, so like web application, web server, and it also similar to Metasploit. It is an open source environment. So what you're gonna do first is recon-ng is already installed in Kali Linux, so you don't have to install it, but you can access the help option. Okay, so let me minimize this, and I'm going to use recon-ng. And so if it changes the font to blue in Kali Linux, that means that the tool exists. If it's still showing white or underlined, that means that the tool is not there, so you have to install it. And different version of Kali has different tools. So just keep that in mind, because you're going to watch this video a year from now and you're like, oh, I'm just going to download the latest version. It might not be there anymore. Tools change, right? They retire certain tools because they stop supporting it. So just keep that in mind, right? So we're going to do a -h, right? And it's going to give you options that you can use with your command, just like what we talked about before. We can make a workspace, right? We can use marketplace. And then so once you see the option and you know what you want to use, you're going to do a recon-ng to be in its own command line. So you're using command line to access the app command line, okay? All right, so you see that now? When you're in the app command line, you're going to see the app name and then the arrow. So it's kind of like shell, okay, in a way, right? It's basically outputting because it's Python script. And then you're going to type help because you don't know what else to do. You're going to look at what can I do here? So it tells you that you can, these are some of the common command that you can use, like db, dashboard, back, exit, etc. So once you have help, then we're going to make a new workspace. So simply use workspaces, create, and then whatever the name that you want, test workspace. Yeah, you can call test one, right? My recon, whatever you want here and in the name, right? So test WS and then press enter. And you notice that now it changes the path, okay? It puts you in that space. You always want to make a workspace for these analysis or these recon things. Then we are gonna search the marketplace. So marketplace is a repository for the tools within this tool. recon-ng is a suite, right? It is a framework where you can have different components, elements of the tool to work. Very similar to what you've seen with KIS. So we're gonna do marketplace help. And so it tells you that there are some options that you can use, right? Interfaces with modules for marketplace. Take care. Like we can have info, we can install, we can remove specific tool. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna use a tool called search domain. It's gonna find the URL, right? The domain name for you. Okay, so marketplace, search domain. And once that is, it's going to tell you, oh, some of the things are not installed, some of the things are. So what we can do is we can install what's called the hacker target module, right? Keep in mind that a lot of these things are not equipped, even though you install the tool. So you're going to bring in additional packages. Okay. So it shows that I just install it. Now I can search for the domain. So similar to KIS, I want to show you that recon-ng can also do this. It can go out and find domain information for you, right? KIS can pull like email from that domain. It can pull a bunch of other things. So is recon-ng. Recon-ng is going to have subcomponents that you can utilize to be able to pull data, right? We have tools for things. So once I have hacker target installed, I'm going to load the module. Okay. Keep in mind that these modules don't always come installed, so you have to install them. Just read the prior steps output. So it's going to load it, and you notice that now it's in the path. And then now I can set my domain, just like how in KIS, you can add the domain name, right? In recon-ng, you have to tell it what is the source. What does that do is in the function, it's going to put that into the parameter, right, from the variable. So basically you put the domain name to a variable and you pass that variable into a function, and it's going to, in that module where it uses in the application. It all makes sense, right? If you think about modules, variable, so all the location. So here, we are going to add the domain, that our target domain, right? So it tells me now that it loads the source is my domain name. And then I want to find information about it. So you type info, right? So it's going to do the query, and then I'm going to do an input to input values. And then I'm going to do a run, right? So it tells me that, oh, well, it's not giving back any kind of information. So sometimes you're going to get target that's going to give you a lot of details back about itself, right? Sometimes it's not, and it tells me that if you want more, you need to, go to their Git repository. So some tools are not perfect, some tools are. And also tools work differently with different domain because of the structure. Take a screenshot here, and then I can do show host, right? Nothing return, because if they don't allow host information to return. So what am I looking for when I'm saying show host? Server name, server information, IP addresses for the host. So if they have that security, they won't have it. Okay, so you can say none shown here. And so I did this in the past. If you watch the video from 2 years prior, right? The output is different because, ScanMe had changed their security settings. And so it would be different with different hosts and different time. And so if you don't have any IP information, then you use a different tool, right? So I show you how you can use KIS and recon-ng to get the data that you need for the purpose of the same target. So now we can exit, and then we can shut down. So what did I learn about this, right? I learned that I need to install a Docker to run the security tool. KIS require database setups with PostGresSQL. I can create workspace with KIS and recon-ng to gather information. And it also depends on the target. Who is the target? If they have security settings that doesn't respond back or provide back information. So, and then recon-ng, same thing. You're going to set up a workspace. You're going to use command to be able to set the domain name into the source, and then be able to use that, as a target scan. So, and mind you, I only ran this tool one time, and I remember this set. So you have to get to a point where You read the information, you install, and because KIS and recon-ng to me is very similar. The structure, you need a workspace. You need to put it in a workspace. You need to add the domain. So once you do it, you're like, oh, okay, it's similar because it's the way they develop. They create the tools to have similar structure, right? And it's unlikely that, there are the same developers that are creating these tools. So I want you to feel comfortable doing these things and understanding the process. And sometimes, right, after you set everything up and it doesn't work, and then you set up another tool, right? Because that's how it is. So it's not like a movie or TV where instantaneously you get something. It doesn't work that way. Days, hours, weeks, years, months, sometimes. Okay, so kind of summarize what you've done in the lab and what you've learned. The whole point is to help you reflect upon what you just did, right? Not just copy and paste command, not just looking at the screen and following Dr. Nguyen and whatever she says, right? But really understanding what you're applying in this class because it is a next level class, right? You're trained to be an analyst, you be a threat hunter, whatever that you're passionate about. Okay, so let's stop.